So, credit cards they're basically a means of borrowing because you can use them to pay for goods and then you pay off that money later. There are good reasons why you might want to use credit cards, and in the assignment that goes with this I'll put a link to some information about that. But basically, if you're buying stuff online, credit cards can provide you with a lot of protection. But people also do get into a mess with credit cards because you can buy loads of stuff, think you're going to be able to afford it, but actually you can't. And then the interest payments build up and you can end up with a lot of debt that you can't manage. So credit cards are something to be careful with, they're something to think about, and they're something to make sure you understand before you start using them. So if you get a statement from a credit card, it will have on it a summary of your account. And it will tell you things like the previous balance, so that might be, it depends what you'd owed the previous month. Maybe £695.32. Payments received. Now, I would always pay my credit card off straight away each month because that way you don't get charged any interest. So mine would always be whatever I'd owed, I would pay. And then the new transactions, fees and charges. For me, that would just be whatever I'd paid this time, whatever I'd bought this month. But if you don't pay off the whole month amount every time you receive a bill, then you will have interest to pay on the amount you owe, and it's quite a high interest rate. It tends to be around about 20% at the moment. And when you consider that you are really, really lucky if you can get interest of about 2% on any money you've got in the bank earning interest, that 20% interest that you pay on what you owe on a credit card, that is huge. So then you've got your new balance. So because I would have had a previous balance which I then paid off, so that has a little CR next to it because it's credit, those cancel each other out. I owed that much, I paid it off, I've now added this much to what I owe, so that's my new balance, would be the 19502. And then it'll tell me what my minimum payment due would be. Now this is an interesting one. You have a minimum payment to make sure that you don't just build up greater and greater and greater and greater debts. But it's never a huge amount, so it tends to be a certain percentage of what you owe, or £5, whichever is less. So maybe 3% of what you owe, or 1% of what you owe, or £5, whichever is less. Whichever is more. So my minimum payment would be £5, and it would give me a date. Something like that. And if I pay my minimum payment by that date, then I would still be paying interest on the rest of it, but I wouldn't be incurring other charges. If you don't pay your minimum payment by the date due, then there are all sorts of consequences that happen. So you end up having to pay fees to the bank, and you end up, it affects your credit rating because you haven't paid off the credit card. You haven't made the minimum payment, so you haven't shown that you can manage your credit. So this minimum payment is something that should never ever be missed, and they give you the due date, and you really, really need to make sure that you pay it off by then. But they also say minimum payments. If you make only the minimum payment each month, it will take you longer and cost you more to clear your balance. That is really, really true. Paying off a minimum payment of £5 each time on this amount of money, I would then be paying interest on the rest of the money, and so it would take me an incredibly long time to actually reduce that balance significantly. So let's have a look. Here's an example of a type of question you might get. So this is Briggs Bank. Credit limit £4,000, available credit £3,760. That's just telling you how much you're allowed to borrow, because credit cards always have some sort of a maximum, so you don't just buy £100 million worth of stuff and then disappear. Balance from previous statement, 0. So this person had paid off all their previous month's balance. This person is from an exam question, and I think she's called Geeta. The new transactions, £240. And the interest is 0 because there was nothing carried over from the previous month. So that means that the new balance owed is £240, and the minimum payment due, £7.20, has to be paid by the 15th of June. And interest is charged at a rate of 1% per month. Okay. So this person, the exam question said that this person was going to make the minimum payment and to do nothing more, and what would the balance be at the end of the next month. So if you make the minimum payment, you take off any payments before you start calculating interest. So we're going to do £240, take away £7.20, and that will give you the amount to calculate interest on. So 240 minus £7.20 equals £232.80. And then we have to calculate the interest on that. So it's 1% per month. So to find 1% of £232.80 is £232.80 divided by 100 equals 2.328. Okay, which we're going to round to the nearest penny. So that's going to be rounding to here. So that would round up. So that's £2.33. That's the interest that's being paid on. So she's paying off £7.20. She's getting interest of £2.33. So next month she will owe the balance after her payment plus the interest that's being added on. And that gives you a new balance of £235.13. And in fact, if you go through working out, so that's answering the question, because the question asked what the new balance would be at the end of the next month. If you go through making the minimum payment, because this minimum payment is actually 3%, so it's quite easy to work out what the minimum payment will be each month. Then you could say, so the next month she's going to make a minimum payment of 3%. And that's £2.05, and then you can calculate, take that away. And that gives you £228.08 still owed, and then you've got the interest on top of that. So this time the interest is £2.28, and then that would have to be added on to what she owes. So that's if we've done another month. So that's what she'd owe at the end of the next month. And you can see it's not really going down very fast, from £240 to £230.36. And in fact, if she keeps making the minimum payment, in order to get it down below even £200, she's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 monthly payments. And all that time she's owing money, and she's making this minimum payment, and she's paying interest to the credit card. So this could suit the credit card company quite well, because they're getting a constant income from this, and she's not really paying stuff off very fast. And so the minimum payment locks you into being in debt for a very, very long time. You really want to pay off faster than the minimum payment.